Hey everybody, welcome to another WMDTech demo. I'm here with our CEO, Robert Brown, and today we want to show you a product that really helps you expand your imaging capabilities when it comes to X-ray. We have a system here that can work from multiple platforms, ScanX, MMX. There's some variants for the sizes and the configurations, and we're happy to share those with you guys. We are going to post some information here below where you guys can get linked over to these product pages and get some of the technical specs. But we're just going to kind of get down and dirty today, jump into this Mosaic system here, some of the variants, and talk about the benefits of adding it to your truck. So,
well, we've had this kit. It's kind of been on the secret menu for a long time. We've had this kit for probably a little over 10 years, but it was specifically for the MMX before. But on, like I said, the secret menu, when people would ask, can you do this for ScanX? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We just never thought to actually advertise it for everybody for mainstream use. So
it's definitely seen its way pretty much all the way around the world. And there's some teams that this is going to be more applicable to than others, but I really think almost everyone can benefit from the capability.
Right.
And so, after a lot of kind of inquiries over time, we want to get in and just kind of assemble kind of parts and pieces of it, talk about the different configurations, and give you guys just an image of what you would receive if you were to order a kit like this.
Well, to give you an idea of how long the system's been around, XTK, when you do the Mosaic, that default 2mm gap on panels was based around our system. So XTK 1.0 beta had that Mosaic capability.
Built in.
They had our gap in there, so that's how long our system's been around.
And that's something to keep in mind as we open this up and go through the system. There is the capability in XTK to upload these, the stitching features in there and create a larger image. So I think most of you guys are probably familiar with the Mosaic system in general. Obviously, you're putting multiple images together to create one larger image. So that's great for cars, trucks, different applications that you might want to get that larger image. Some of you guys are running with small scanners. We just want to get as many bags as we can. We don't need a huge surface area. But of course, there's scenarios where you're going to want to spend the least amount of time down there, get an image,
picture possible,
and get it back. Yeah.
Now, this system is also one of the, I think it's the only system out there that can allow you to do cross-panel shots. On XTK, everybody and their brother recommends not to do cross-panel shots, and it's good practice.
Right.
But with this system, you can do cross-panel shots. So that's different from everything else.
So what do you mean by that specifically?
So if your target, let's say I've got my 4 dots are on this panel, but my target is on this panel, and I don't have enough to do an actual firing solution for this one, and maybe I get 2 or 1 dot on this one, or let's say I've got 3 on this one, and I got 1 on this one. So XTK, if your alignments are right and all your spacings are right, and you're using this Mosaic system, you can use those 3 dots from that film and that 1 dot from that film, and XTK will give you a firing solution.
And your dots, you mean the fiducials and the grid boards?
Yes.
And so we haven't had an opportunity to demo it, but stay tuned to the site because we are definitely going to demo the new XTK Grid 2.0s that came out from Sandia. But would those be a good tool to add to a system like this where you could have more fiducials and a bigger image space? So you're almost eliminating the cross-shot concern.
Right. So the biggest reason for doing that cross-panel shot is because we didn't have enough dots.
Right.
If you had a piece of film, you always, the general rule is you always take your shot on the same panel of film as your dots. So if you got your 4 dots, you want them to be on the same panel of film as your target. That's a really good rule. But with this system, we've been able to actually take cross-panel shots. So I got let's say I got my 4 dots on this panel, but my target's on this panel or this panel or this panel. With this system, it actually will allow you to, and we've had very good success taking cross-panel shots.
And we've basically XTK's already accounted for that
gap,
minimal amount of gap to begin with. So it really shouldn't sacrifice image quality if you were to have a device split between gaps.
Right.
But now it's accounted for at least.
Yes, and this is a gap system because you have the overlap. The downside of the overlap is you can never recreate that Mosaic to the point to where you could take cross-panel shots. That's just not even an option.
Right.
Some of the auto stitching is starting to bring it into possibility, but auto stitching is still pretty pretty new, pretty
Infancy stage.
yeah. It's just not quite there yet. And so this was a gap system, and you have your panels butted up against each other, but the alignments are so true that I don't think I've ever had a shot where I could not do a cross panel shot.
Awesome.
Not that it's my first choice, but in the event that you needed it.
In a scenario, a legitimate scenario
Right.
where, we
Now-
don't want to go back down again and take
Right. Now the V2 panels that are now out, the Sandia V2 panels, those have much more dots, a whole lot of tungsten dots, and so
pairing that new XDK V2 boards with this system essentially eliminates the concern
yes.
of image size, unless you're trying to do an entire semi at once,
which I have done.
You could technically do,
Yep.
So let's jump into it, get a little unboxing here. We'll get this big green box out of the way and kind of go through some of the variations of the components and what you might pick to fit your team.
So this one is one of the variants we had. This is actually one of the original ones where we had the suction cup, the pump on the side. The newer ones we have the mount there. So what I was shooting for was minimal, thickness.
Right.
So when you're trying to slide this behind something, I wanted it as thin as possible. But it had some downsides. There's no perfect world. This kit normally comes with the 5 of these arms, 3 shorts and 2 longs. We don't have the longs in here, but we're going to do a 2x2 configuration. Standard kit comes with 9, so it's a 3x3 configuration. So
9 panels.
9 panels. So 14 by 17 times 9 panels. It's pretty significant coverage. I mean, you're getting a good chunk of a car.
So if you buy this
system,
shot, you can pick whether I want to do a 2x2 or a 2x3 or a 3x3 or a 1x3, whatever you want to do.
Yes.
The legs here will configure in different ways, the different sizes of legs. And we actually have some larger suction cups over there.
Right. And there's some, the larger suction cups, more surface area, more holding power, more weight. And we'll talk about some of the reasons for that.
So you just as we're kind of going over this, you can imagine this in anything from a 1 panel all the way to any configuration up to 9 and maybe even beyond.
Right. Now our standard MMX. So I'm going to set this aside for a second here. Our standard MMXs used a snap-on cover, a little bit deeper like that one, and that's got some indexing pins in there. And you might have seen some of these in the field, but your MMX panel was laminated to a polycarbonate plate, and so your phosphor plate was actually laminated to a polycarbonate plate, and that inherently gave you that kind of rigid structure that we use for the Mosaic system. This snap-on cover is just a light proofing to keep the sun out while you take your X-ray. Well, the back is not covered with black. Is that okay? Yes, actually. The back of the phosphor plates has a fairly thick black vinyl surface to it. So there's your light proofing for the back. So what we try to do is we try to minimize the amount of, materials needed to make this thing as light as possible. When you're doing so this is MMX. It's those phosphor plates are laminated to the polycarbonate. There's an upgrade.
This is the black vinyl siding.
Right. So this would be a Scanix configuration. So you got your loose phosphor plates. Right, just standard loose phosphor
and so
plates.
For MMX, this is just laminated right here to the panel.
That's really the only difference.
Yeah.
There's an upgraded version with the carbon fiber. We'll talk about some of the advantages to that. And of course there's always disadvantages, but...
So far out of the substrate options, you've got polycarbonate and carbon fiber.
Right.
And the system options, you could have a loose leaf panel.
Right.
Or you could have it laminated to the polycarbonate like you'd see in the MMX.
Right.
Okay.
So all the laminated ones would either be the Lido systems, or the MMX for all the laminated ones. And I believe Lidos had done the carbon fiber option, for the rigidity. You don't get that potato chipping. Polycarbonate's a pretty good plastic. It's actually one of the better plastics. It doesn't curl. It can survive much wider range of temperatures, but it's still plastic. It's still going to have some flexibility to it. You put it out in the hot sun and it's going to start to droop.
Right.
In the cold, it's going to want to curl.
Are they weight-wise pretty similar?
So the polycarbonate is going to be lighter and less expensive than the carbon fiber.
Okay.
The carbon fiber is definitely,
that's rigid.
That's rigid. Yeah. You're not going to have any issues with this thing curling at all. If you do, I'll be impressed.
And so this has, again, if you guys are reaching out, this has what you'd call just a regular snap-on cover.
So this is for a different Mosaic system. MSPT came up with instead of the suction cups, there is another framework. It goes up to a, what is it, 2x2, but you can put those together, so you end up with a 3x3, so a 9-panel mosaic. It uses plastic connectors. There's a little more gap between the plates. It does hold fairly flat, and we'll show you what that looks like. But
and that's really why this system's come to be known as a rigid mosaic
right.
system, because it's rigid.
Yes.
Once it's set up, you're not going anywhere.
And you can carry that down with your robot. So we have done that before, where the robot grabs a hold of those nice aluminum brackets, carries it down range, and actually we're taking X-rays of refrigerators.
Okay.
With our setup. So.
And all of those configurations we talked about before, whether it's a single panel up to 3x3 for a total of 9, that could be mounted on tripods or your various. So robots, tripods, hand carry.
Right.
Okay.
So there's a whole, and this was designed for. Really, it started out with Sandia. They had some missions that required larger format X-rays. When I was doing the WMD mission, we wanted larger format X-rays. And some of the Mosaic systems that I had back in the day were pretty cumbersome. They were massive. So this was a huge step up.
So what kind of assembly, if I wanted to do a 2x2 to shoot a trunk of a car?
So let's pull some of these guys out. These are MMX ones, but we'll just use them for assembling.
Okay. I'll go ahead and put this panel in.
Okay. They all work the same way. And we used to use regular old, I use them for my potato chip bags, but basically paper clips.
Alligator clips.
Yeah, that's what we used to use before to help assemble them. But instead, what we started doing was we started just 3D printing little slide clips. So we'll cover those too. They definitely have an advantage over the paper clips as far as hold strength. I got a few of those out. Okay, I'm gonna lay these out. I'm gonna get rid of this case. So that's an IM 2700, same size case as the
Grid Aim.
The Grid Aim. If we're doing the larger suction cups, it doesn't fit in this case, so we need a larger case. But everything would be in there. Your 9 panels, your Mosaic arms. Your clips, everything would be in one case. It'd be nice and convenient.
And if you're adding those new V2 boards with more fiducials in it, really that can just go with your Grid Aim.
Right.
And then you've got this, so 2 IM 2700s, and
you've got a pretty substantial capability. Yeah. I mean, you could do large format X-rays. So on this guy here, we're just going to kind of align this. You could do Sharpie. You could do whatever you want to draw on the back of these panels to keep track of it. This is 1A, that's 1B, this is 2A, this is 2B. You can write on this, and it's not going to harm your phosphor plates. You can write on the back of the phosphor plates if you want to. I mean, it's not going to cause any damage to it. I'm going to orient these the same way. The MMX versions had little machine dots on there to keep our alignments right. So on these guys, they have a couple features to help with the alignment, because this would be a problem, right? They're not lined up perfectly.
You've increased your gap here.
Yes, you've increased your gap, and even if this came down, well, our alignments are not perfect. I can't do the cross panel shot, because what XDK is going to do by default, it's going to line everything back up. So that's what it's going to do by default. So on the sides of these, we got these little indexing pins. What they do is they get our alignments right. So that just kind of snugs up.
There's a dowel kind of built into the snap cover here that, I mean, you really can't mess that up.
Right, yeah. You want these as tight together as possible. Where does that 2 millimeter gap come from? Each of these is 1 millimeter thick. You got 2 of them, so 2 millimeters, and that's where that 2 millimeter default gap came from on XDK, was this system. So I'm going to go ahead and put these nice and tight together. I'm going to take some of these little 3D printed clips here, and what these are going to do is these are going to snug those panels. They're going to pull them in nice and tight together.
And these dowels actually end up providing some rigidity for the system as well.
Yes, absolutely. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and line all these up. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and do this one. I probably should have gotten some more clips, but you get the idea. Okay, I'm going to do one here. And I'm going to do one over here. And I don't want these really in the middle, because that's where your arms are going to be. So now I've got this. There's actually some pretty decent stiffness to this whole thing. I've got 2x2, so I've got 4 plates, 14 by 17 plates. As you can see, this is fairly substantial coverage alone right there.
That's a car trunk for sure.
Yeah. That helps. Then you take your Mosaic arms, and these are the shorts. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 90-degree bend on these, and they have a little access lock, like the Benchmade Axis, so they can lock in nice and stiff. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and place one here, because we're just going to do a 2x2. I'm just going to pump this guy down. Okay.
So what are these red lines on here for?
So those are kind of the indicators to let you know that you're losing vacuum. You don't actually have to have the pump in there for this to hold vacuum. This is just the pump. It has a little valve in there, a check valve. But if you're setting up and you're getting ready to send it down range and you start to see the red line showing up, that lets us know that we've got a vacuum
Some
leak.
of those cups are starting to maybe come looser.
Yeah. Or there's some crud on your plate.
Okay.
And then it's going to get in the way of this, because these are fairly small suction cups. That's why we do the larger suction cups. So you got more surface area, more holding power. They can.
Is there any disadvantages to the large cups from the small cups?
They don't fit in that 2700 case.
Okay. So if you go with the larger cups, then you're going to have to put some portion or all of your large suction cup configurations outside of the 2700.
Right. Yes. Yep. Okay. So we got all these guys pumped down. We got a simple 2x2 configuration. And I'm going to go ahead and move some of the stuff out of the way so I'm not knocking things over. But you got these 1/4 inserts. So these are what we would use to mount it to a tripod. Your robot arm can grab these arms and pick the sucker up, and she's actually very rigid.
Yeah,
the other thing we got going for us too is it's very flat. The plane is flat, so it might not seem like a big deal, but when you're talking about magnification factor, especially when you're trying to do cross-panel shots, if this panel and this panel are not flat, this panel's bent forward a little bit, this magnification factor is different from this magnification factor. So let's see, if I get this plate here, and I've got this sitting behind my package, and one of these guys is kind of sitting this way, that's two different magnification factors. That's not going to really work well for a cross-panel shot.
Right.
If you calibrate my 4 dots for this one, and this one is flat, and then you come in with the one that's got your target, and it's not flat, all bets are off.
So you're basically rotating your image this way or perhaps this way, depending on if there's too much lean.
Which is normally okay. XDK can compensate for that as long as they're all the same.
So you want to make sure your fiducials are all on one panel if you're
that's
under
the best
suspicion that could have happened.
Right. Now with this system, that definitely minimizes the possibility of these panels being out of plane.
Right.
So really when it becomes a problem is when I've got this panel here, I've got my 4 fiducials here, and I've got this panel, and he's not in plane. So with some of the other Mosaic systems, the overlapping, there's a higher likelihood that you're not going to have it in plane. The old duct tape and cardboard.
Right.
We used to do that all the time, and you're trying to keep that thing flat. Is not a very likely thing to happen.
So, like you just showed, this is rigid enough. These are going to stay in that nice flat
plane. So, this is a rigid Mosaic, and these things are flat. Let's see if I can get it here.
And like you said, the depth. That's only got to be 2 or 3 inches as far as if you
right. If you need to slide this behind something, your thickness profile here is actually still pretty slim. This is a fairly compact package.
Yeah.
And we've got nice planar alignment here. This is nice and flat. You've got all of your panels are aligned to each other. So
do we have to be in a vertical array here, or can we?
No, we just turn it sideways, and now you go landscape. So you got a wider format.
So you guys can see this pretty much hides Rob back here, but imagine 3x3. That's a massive.
You got another one out this way. You got
all the way
another one out this way, and that gets giant. And so it's not actually too bad to carry. You could carry that down. Your robot can carry it down. And this thing just stays together. It's a rigid Mosaic. With minimal amount of hardware. We try to go as light as possible with this. We try to go as thin as possible as we could with this, and it just worked. It's been working for it's been over 10 years.
Yeah.
That we've had the system out there, and I have never heard of any complaints. Every once in a while, you'll have suction cups will start to lose suction. So if you have this hanging behind your whatever it is you're taking an image of, for half an hour or more, eventually they'll start to lose suction, and that can happen. So, you clean up your cups with a little alcohol, you make sure your plates are clean.
Yeah, everything's ready to go.
And that will minimize.
Help mitigate, yeah.
Yes. Now, if you're just struggling and you just can't keep enough suction, or you got more weight, so we also have some thicker snap-on covers. They provide a little more depth, and you can throw your lead sheets in there, and that's something that the labs normally do for the higher dose radiography.
And those can come in different thicknesses as well, right?
Yeah. Typical is 20 mil or 10 mil, so 20 thousandths or 10 thousandths thick, and that does add quite a bit of weight. So the only thing that's not going to keep this rigid is this polycarbonate can flex. So let me turn this over here, and you can kind of see that, polycarbonate will flex a little bit. So to solve that, we go to a more rigid substrate, this carbon fiber, and these things don't flex.
Yeah.
Good luck flexing it. So if you can also do, instead of a polycarbonate backer, let's say I'm doing a Scanic system, and I don't want it to flex, right? We do have quite a few extras of these carbon fibers, so I think we're doing some kind of deal right now with carbon fiber backers. You get the carbon fiber backers with the suction cup system, and you do your Scanix plates, and you don't have to have the Scanix plates with this. You could get them if you have plenty of Scanix plates, then use your Scanix plates.
Use what you got.
If you want some new ones, we have plenty of new ones in stock, so we could do that as well. But this just clicks in right behind your plate, so you would have the advantage of a much more rigid backer if you went to the carbon fiber. It does add a little bit more weight. It is a little bit heavier. So if weight's an issue, then you'd want to go polycarbonate.
But really, once you give us a call, let us know what system you're working with, how large of a configuration you want. Couple decisions to make up front, and after that, you're putting this thing together.
Oh yeah,
pretty quick.
Yeah, that was actually pretty easy.
And it's not something with tons of nuts and bolts. Everything's really fixed. So if you want to be done, that's it. And now you're ready to load it back in the case and put it back in the truck. So it's a useful solution, dramatically increasing your surface area of your image.
Right.
And it might even just swallow Rob up right there behind it.
Oh, I am 7'2", so I know it does. It doesn't quite get over the top of my head when it's standing up there, but it comes pretty close.
Yeah.
That's what we would use. So it doesn't have to be a 3x3. We could do a 2x4, so you actually have your 2, 4, 6, 8 panels, and you have this real tall, fairly narrow one, or you do them landscape and you do 2x4, and you get a really tall X-ray.
Do you feel like pulse considerations change a lot when you're shooting a Mosaic? Do you have
you do have to back your X-ray off enough so you get enough cone coverage.
Right.
If you've got a large Mosaic, a 3x3, you're going to need a fairly good sized cone in order to cover all those plates. So, the standard 12, 15 feet back, we have not ever had, the flashlight effect on those.
So you're not having to do 500 pulses.
No. Well, on a vehicle, I start 500 anyway.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But you're doing your 12 feet back. If you're doing a fairly light skin package, then it's the same. It's what you normally do. So they do have a calculator in XTK, how to plan your mosaics. So you can plan what orientation, how far back your X-ray needs to be to get full coverage, and then compile that with your dose calculator, and you can completely calculate an X-ray plan before you even walk down range. And
so is that information either already on or planned to be part of our online training platform? If guys are unfamiliar with that part of XTK, most guys are semi-familiar with that system or have maybe scanned a few images, but if you really want to get into some of the advanced like Mosaic, plotting and planning and the V2 boards and stuff like you're saying, is that going to be provided on the WMDTech online platform? Yes.
So we'll actually have that training in there. So currently we did a base XTK class. We're getting ready to redo that because there's a new version of XTK that just came out.
Okay, so it'll be all the latest editions.
All the latest stuff, and then we'll do some breakouts because not everybody's interested in doing a Mosaic. Not everybody's interested in doing a dose calculator. An image overlay. There's so many different
And those
tools.
modules are broken out so that I can select the modules that are most relevant for me and my team.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Now the other thing I've done before, and this is where the CR system just kicks the pants off of the DRs.
Right.
The DRs can't do a large format X-ray. I mean, there's some tools out there that kind of help automate it, but I remember doing an exercise a while back, and it was for an X-ray assessment, and they brought out a box truck, like a U-Haul box truck. And I remember the poor DR guys were looking at this thinking, how in the heck are they going to figure out what's in this box truck? Because you got to manually reposition those DR panels. Well, if you've got a Scanix, you do the Mosaic system, you do a large format X-ray. And what I did on that particular one, because I didn't know the area of interest, I mean, it's still a box truck, right? I'm trying to do this timed event. I did a 1x9 configuration. So I did these all in landscape, and I stitched them together, so I had 9 of these 17-inch panels wide, and I put that right at the bed level of the truck.
You just use tripods, couple
tripods, and I had this gigantic long Mosaic that actually covered the whole entire length of this box truck. I put that right up against, at the floor height of that box truck, and then I went ahead and fired my X-ray. I processed all 9 panels, and I found out that there was 3 drums dead center of the box truck.
So even if you wanted to go shoot, reconfigure your system, and then go shoot, now you know where you're
focused
shooting.
on that area.
Yeah.
I got all 3 drums
Process
in one
of
image.
elimination, pretty much.
Oh yeah, and it took me less time than if I try to go in there with a fiberscope. Because fiberscope, okay, great, I got 3 drums. I didn't do that X-ray, but where are those drums?
Right.
And when I did my image, I knew it was exactly between this panel and this panel.
Well, you could fiberscope and then end up still having to do it twice because you got your approximation from a different point of view, basically.
Yes.
And then, I did get close, but I got this much of the drum. Now it's second image over here.
Oh, it was fast. I had that box truck cleared, or X-rayed, completely X-rayed, and identified all of the components and everything in 2 shots.
Yeah,
2 shots, awesome. 2 times downrange. So one to set up my 1x9, wedged that up against the side of the truck, fired my X-ray, came back, got my got my film, processed it uprange, and that didn't take long. I mean, about 9 minutes, 10 minutes to process that.
So once the robot rodeos and the bomb tech competitions start back up, have one of these on your truck.
Right. Large format X-ray.
Yeah.
And if you already have Scanixes, this is a great companion for that. So DRs are beautiful images, but you're limited to your image size.
At least for now and in the foreseeable future, there's going to be a need for CR and DR technology on every truck.
Yes. Yeah, and if you already have that CR capability, then why not just enhance it?
Right.
Hey, if it's time to break out the Scanix, it's because you're doing a large format X-ray. And so that's a great opportunity to go ahead and do a very nice, rigid, large format X-ray.
So is there anything else you feel? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, guys. I mean, you got plates, pick your panels, pick your scanner type. What's your array? We'll get it shipped out to you, put it on the truck. You saw how to put it together here just in a couple of minutes, but anything else you think they should know?
I'm kind of feeling a little silly for keeping this on the secret menu for so long because, we've had those customers that know about it ask, but we never thought to.
We've sold a good amount of these to that customer base,
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've probably put thousands of these out in the field. And funny enough, most people still don't know about it because, we never advertised. We never told people about it, so.
Yeah, and that's how it is over time. As you guys know, as good as anybody, capabilities kind of might start at a smaller group, and then they just start phasing over time. And now this is definitely a capability we'd love to see get into more hands. So,
and you just write right on the back of these things. So I've got my Mosaic. When I come back uprange, I know exactly which way they were. I know what order to scan
them in. Take the panel out. Yeah,
makes it easy.
Right on. Well, guys, that was kind of your basic demo here on the WMDTech Rigid Mosaic system. As I mentioned earlier, portions of this will be covered in the WMDTech.online training series. You can always reach out to us, sales@WMDTech. You can reach out to me, Jake Berryman, at jberryman@WMDTech. And this is our CEO, Robert Brown. We're happy to answer any of your guys' questions. We can hop on a Zoom. Whatever you guys need, just give us a call. We're happy to support you, and stay safe out there.